Blackhawks lines came out today, one day out from the first game back after the Olympic break, and it kind of got me thinking about how the rest of the season is going to go and what does a successful last 25 games look like for the Blackhawks. I'd really like to know what you guys think in the comments below. What do you think is the benchmark for a successful last 25 games? If you're new here, I am here after every single Chicago Blackhawks game doing an in-depth analysis post-game show. I'm also live for every single Chicago Blackhawks game right here on YouTube. So make sure you subscribe so you don't miss that. It's a lot of fun. Teuvo Teravainen's back practicing now, so we're kind of getting an actual look at what the lines are going to be rolling forward and starting tomorrow in Nashville. And let me just go over what they were really quickly. You had on the top line Green, Bedard, Burakovsky, then Moore, Nazar, Bertuzzi, Donato, Dickinson, Mikheyev, Paravainen, Foligno, Slaggert. Your extras were Doc and Lafferty. And then on the back end, you had Vlasic, Crevier, Murphy, Rinzel, Grzelcyk, Levshinov, Korchinski as the extra. Wyatt Kaiser was there, but he's still hurt, so he's not participating in actual line rushes. So I'll quickly go over kind of what stood out to me with this and how it might apply going forward. Um, I really like Green and Bedard together. I've said that pretty much all year. I like those two guys together, and I'm glad they're still together. And I love that second line of Moore, Nazar, and Bertuzzi. My gripe with it, however, is more on the wing. We've seen it, more than a few times this year. We've seen it enough to know it's true that Oliver Moore plays his best hockey and truly really good hockey when he's playing center. So I like the idea of those three together. It's just that you have two guys who should be playing center in Moore and Nazar, and I've said it for a long time now. I think you're a really good 1, 2, 3 down the middle is Bedard, Nazar, Moore. But at this point in time, when you still have a guy like Jason Dickinson and you have Nick Foligno, it's hard to do that. Um, so I didn't like that. I didn't like Moore on the wing, and I also don't like Teuvo on the fourth line. And I get that, he just flew in, all that. It might have something to do with that he's a little jet lagged and tired from the Olympics. Um, so that could change. Um, but I just don't see where he slots in unless you do put Oliver Moore down to the third line center position. You put Teuvo back up on that second line with Nazar and Bertuzzi, which I also do really like that. So we'll see what happens there. Um, but for me, the true keys to success in these last 25 games and what a successful end of the season would look like, it's two things. One, it's clearing up roster spots. Um, you have Murphy and Dickinson who are likely to go. The other expiring guys are Mikheyev, Foligno, Lafferty, and Grzelcyk, who Mikheyev, they better not get rid of Mikheyev. I highly doubt Nick Foligno gets dealt anywhere unless he asks to be traded to a contender. But even that, I don't think he would. I think he likes his role here in Chicago, and I think he wants to see it through. Lafferty's a guy that maybe I just don't know what the return would be for a guy who's barely played this year, and um, I would just see it being for the sake of clearing up roster spots. And then you have a guy like Grzelcyk, who I don't know what the Hawks are thinking with Grzelcyk. Maybe they trade him, maybe they don't. I mean, he's on a $1 million contract. He's a useful player. I could see teams being interested, but we'll see. So the first key is clearing up roster spots because I mean the first call up is going to be Nick Lardis. I see Dickinson getting dealt, Lardis getting called up. That's a fairly safe prediction, I think. And then you have, if Murphy gets traded, I could see Korchinski and Ethan Del Mastro coming up. Ideally, to me, I would like to have Korchinski up here. I've said it in my last video. I've said it for a while, and unfortunately, kind of reading into what Blashill's been saying, it seems like Korchinski is up here right now for practice and not necessarily to play. So we'll see what happens. I went over it in the last video. I think Korchinski needs to play, but I'm not going to get into it again here. So opening up roster spots, and then you have also Anton Frondel coming here in probably sometime in March, and he's not going to sit. He's not going to play in the bottom six. He's a guy that they're going to slot in. He's going to go in the top six, ideally next to Bedard. But he needs a spot. So does that mean you trade Lafferty? If you don't, does that mean Slaggert or Doc go to the AHL? I don't know. And then you also have other sneaky candidates for guys that might get some games. Like I've been saying for a while, I think Samuel Savoie, I would like to see what he can do up here. I think he's a really good role player, who could provide something that we don't have a lot of, and especially with Doc being an extra forward today at practice and certainly not guaranteed to be in the lineup. I think Samuel Savoie could provide some things we need, and it would be cool to see him get. I'm not saying give him the 25 games that are remaining on the year, but get him in for a handful, a few, see what he can do. And then Sasha Boisvert. I mean, he's another guy who's going to wrap up his college season, and I mean, who knows? Like maybe he'll get a look. We don't know. Like there's a lot of guys that could get looks. So I think regardless of who gets looks and who doesn't, you need to open up some roster spots here. And I think Kyle Davidson knows that. He talks a lot about passing the torch to the young guys and letting them take over. So I think I think he knows that he has to free up some spots here. Um, and the other key for me to success is ending the year on a high note. And we saw it last year. They finished April last year with a 500 record. You had Nazar, Bedard, Knight, Renzel, and more red hot as the season ended. On cloud nine, confidence. They're all putting up points. They're all feeling good, playing good hockey, and it carried over to this year. Um, so I think we need to see those top guys finish the year hot. And the one and only thing, well, not one and only, but the big thing it really comes down to is like, what Connor Bedard are we going to get post Olympic break here in the final stretch? Because as Jay Zawaski of CHGO pointed out, we've seen two Connor Bedards this year. We've seen the MVP caliber Connor Bedard from the beginning of the season, and then we've seen the post injury Connor Bedard who is struggling to get his game back. Probably not, I mean, I shouldn't say probably not, definitely not 100% healthy. They didn't have him taking faceoffs, which tells you that the shoulder isn't 100%, and they kind of want to ease back into that. So, do we have a 100% healthy Connor Bedard? He's been taking faceoffs in practice, so it looks like we might. So it really comes down to those two things for me. It's roster spots. It's can we inject more youth into the lineup? You have to have Frondell. You have to have Lardis. You have to have one of Ethan Del Mastro or Kevin Korchinski. You just have to. Um, yeah, at least for the end of the year. Maybe you keep Grizzlick to have that veteran presence next year, but I'm just talking the end of this season. You have to have one of those guys up when Murphy inevitably goes, I think. And you have to end the year hot because we've seen the benefit that that has for a lot of these guys, specifically Bedard, Nazar, and Knight. Um, we've seen the impact that can have going into the following season. So I think that's really important because the Hawks are going to want to win games next year. They took a step this year in the first couple months of the season, a really big step. They exceeded a lot of people's expectations, and that kind of sets up now for next season. The expectation is okay. Let's do that again, but do it longer this time, right? I mean, no rebuild is going to go from draft lottery to divisional playoff spot, convincingly. That's just not how it goes. Like you have to take steps and, exactly like they did at the start of this year. You play the first 2 months of the season really well, really competitive, fighting for a playoff spot. Yeah, then you drop off. Okay, well, next season, let's play up until February, fighting for a playoff spot. And yeah, of course, hope to hold on to it. But if they play really good, uh, wild card contending hockey up until February next season, and then they fall off again, it's still a step in the right direction. So I think that's really important. And I mean, as far as this year goes, it would be a miracle if they made the playoffs. I know we're all hoping for it. I don't think anyone's expecting it. And if you are, you're probably going to be disappointed. I think it's another year of we're going to be looking at the draft lottery, and we're already doing that. And yeah, so to me, those are my two keys to success that are going to determine whether or not these last 25 games are a success. It's who is going to get the ice time, clearing up those roster spots, seeing that next step of youth injection, and ending the year on a high note. If the Hawks can finish April again, 500 or better, ideally better. You finish with Bedard having maybe 10 points in 6 games or something, and Nazar scoring again, and Spencer Knight still playing good hockey, and maybe you have Frondell putting up good numbers in his stint at the end of the year. I think that'll do a lot for this team, and I think those two things are what's going to determine success this year. And I'd really like to know what you guys think in the comments below. What do you think is the benchmark for a successful last 25 games? I've put mine on the line here. I would love to see what you guys think. Like I said, if you're new here, I am here after every single Chicago Blackhawks game doing an in-depth analysis post-game show. I'm also live for every single Chicago Blackhawks game right here on YouTube. So make sure you subscribe so you don't miss that. It's a lot of fun. Hawks play tomorrow. They're in Nashville. I'll see you then. It's in! Bedard! Let's go! Connor Bedard! 1-0. Fuck yeah. Go Mikheyev. Mikheyev's got a lane. Oh, what a shot! Ilya Mikheyev. Let's go! Man, he is so good. If they let him go or if they trade him, I'm going to be... They got to re-sign this guy. What a shot. And a good play. Was that Dickinson that flipped it out to him? All right, 2-on-1 maybe. Nazar, Bedard. Bedard stops up. He's got so much room, and he scores. What a shot from Connor Bedard. My word. That was beautiful. Too bad it doesn't matter. That was such a nice shot. That stop-up toe drag, he loves it. Bang.